Action here at IJ Action, and it's great to be in space with you all. We thank everyone for showing up tonight, and we just ask everyone just to please introduce yourself, where you're zooming in from in the chat, so we can all get acquainted with one another. And tonight we're going to go ahead and get started with tonight's it's the November 2022 IJ Action General Meeting. And some of our staff is on assignment, zooming in from our staff retreat and strategic planning session. So again, it's good to see everyone here. I'm Jay, and I'm zooming in from Bakersfield, California. So that said, we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. So we're going to start off with some welcomes and introductions, followed by some membership announcements. Then we'll go into some committee updates, and we'll head into our main segment, which will be an election reflection, followed by a closing, which will talk about some next steps for those who are joining us for the first time or people who are members. So again, thank you, everybody. If you could just 1 second. So one thing we like to do is we like to take a second to shout out our new members and those who have completed orientation. And so with that, we'll start off with the new members. We have Zykia P, we have Mackenzie K, Emiliano C, Casey V, Sasha F. And we also like transparency here at IJ Action. So we would like to just acknowledge the fact that because of everyone's generous donations to membership, we were able to bring in $170 this past month with member donations. So that means a lot to us. We really appreciate everything that people are able to offer. That way we could reinvest that back into membership and into things that benefit you all as members. So thank you, everyone, for all your contributions. It's much appreciated. So we also like to take a second to just go over our membership structure here at IJ Action real briefly. At IJ Action, we have two forms of membership. On the right, as you can see, we have what is our supportive membership. And this wonderful visual was put together by our comms team here at IJ Action. On the right side, the supportive members are people who have completed their application and have paid annual member dues, and they participate in meetings and support committees whenever possible. On the left side of that visual, we have our active members. And active members are folks who have completed their membership application, who have paid their annual member dues, who complete new member orientation, who commit to attending general monthly member meetings, who sign up for at least one committee, and who sign the membership pledge. The difference between the two forms of membership is, of course, capacity. We also we like to try to have everyone be active members, but we understand that some people don't have the capacity, which is why we have that second option for folks who are just able to contribute and want to support the work that we're doing at IJ Action. So with that, we'll move into the committee updates. And since I'm already talking, I'll just go ahead and give this wonderful update on Membership and Outreach Committee. So again, I'm Jay. I'm the chair, along with Adriana, of the Membership and Outreach Committee. And Membership and Outreach Committee is primarily tasked with membership recruitment, policy action items, community engagement, such as reentry lists, tabling at events, voter outreach, helping folks get registered to vote, and other outreach programs. With that, I would like to take a second to just speak about some of the outreach that we did this year with some community trainers who we going to take the time to recognize here in a second. And what we did was we're able to present over 24 presentations to over 294 people throughout the state of California, different counties, at different reentry facilities, college campuses, and places that are considered to be post-carceral spaces for folks who are formerly incarcerated and on parole, to inform them of their right to vote, help folks get registered, and to share our voter guide. And with that, our community trainers were able to register 78 people and be able to plant the seeds to information that will go on for, who knows when, and we'll continue to, again, circle back and address those efforts and make sure that those community relations are maintained. So with that, I'll take a second to just recognize Roberto, Adam, Ishmael, MJ, Ephraim, Graham, Taylor, Adriana, and Stephanie for their wonderful work and for helping to make that program just a wonderful program that's been able to affect so many people to begin with. And also as a staff, and as I mentioned, our staff is in the middle of our staff retreat and strategic organizing session. We want to take the time to just recognize the fact that due to our involvement with the elections, the voter guide, and other things, we kind of realized that we haven't really made as many opportunities for membership to be involved as we would like. But we understand that, we center that, we acknowledge that, and we like to let y'all know that we're currently in the process of building infrastructure to have a robust membership and outreach committee moving forward in 2023. And we look forward to just seeing our membership being involved and being the wonderful organizers that you are, family members and allies. So thank you all. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it to comms team for the announcement on, sorry.
Hey everybody, my name is Emiliano from the Comms and Fundraising Committee. So this year we put it on hold, but right now at our staff retreat, we're strategizing for how we're going to develop the strategy and fundraising committee next year. So stay tuned. And for those that are interested, we have you on our database, and we'll get in contact with you to see if how you'll get involved. But with that said, I'll pass it over to our next speaker.
All right, so I'm gonna take us into like our actual presentation for this time. So I think y'all know, like, we had to move this meeting because last week was the election, is the general election, which was like a big deal. We're seeing a lot of like really important things happen across the country. But we also have some like really awesome things happen in California as well. So this evening, we're going to be joined by our strategy and development manager, who y'all may or may not have met, Shervin Azami, who's going to do a pretty cool presentation on some of the big takeaways from the general election. So that being said, Shervin, can you go ahead and share your screen with the presentation?
Will, thank you all so much. Let me pull it up. All right, can y'all see my screen? Cool. Great to be here with all of you. My name is Shervin Azami, he, him pronouns. As Taina mentioned, I'm the strategy and development manager with IJ Action. Great to be here with all of you. It's gonna walk us through some of the updates from the election last week. Results are still pending for a number of races, including for folks that are allies of ours and some of our endorsed candidates. But overall, we've seen some incredible success. We're going to kind of dive into some open discussion around y'all's experience voting in this election, overview some of the election results, specifically around our IJ Action endorsed candidates, overview of the various propositions, and specifically Los Angeles County Measure A, and then kind of a little synopsis of our legislative strategy moving forward based on the election results and how we kind of want to regroup and figure out who our allies and opposition may be moving forward to get important abolitionist bills across the finish line. So going right into open discussion, as y'all can see here on the screen, kind of 3 open-ended questions to kind of get us talking about the experience. For those of you who may have voted for the very first time ever in this election, either the primary or in the general, or if the first time since being released that you're voting. Would love to kind of get some feedback from y'all. What was that experience like? What was your takeaways from it? So I'll stop there, see if anyone wants to jump in and share any personal experiences about voting.
Yeah,
Anyone have any? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I can
go
go
ahead.
ahead and get it. I can go ahead and get it started. So my name is Jay again. This was my third time voting, but actually it's my first time voting in the general election in my life. So it's just great to be able to have this opportunity, especially with the work that IJ Action and with the work that Initiate Justice did at the C3 to be able to create this opportunity for myself and people like myself who are still on parole, and just to be able to be a part, have our voices heard, kind of be considered a full citizen in California and be able to, have our opinions felt. So it was just great for me to be able to vote for the first time in the general election. And I'm really appreciative of the work that other organizers and folks have sacrificed for us to be able to be a part of this.
Right on. Appreciate you, Jay. Andy, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, it was my second time voting, my first time in the general election, and it's still a feeling that I cannot believe. And every time I do it, I feel more empowered, more empowerment. And it was my last time voting on parole because Friday I found out that I'm off parole. I've been off parole since September 5th.
Hell yeah.
I didn't find out till this week because all the paperwork they got to do to release me, but I'm off.
Congrats, bro. Hell yeah. That's great news. All right. Anybody else want to share an experience? Whether you voted by mail, whether you went in person, you were confused about certain races, anything. No right or wrong answers. Crispy?
Yeah, just I want to thank you everybody for your hard work. I'm sorry I couldn't help as much because of health issues. I vote, I have a husband and a son, and I vote, we have a family meeting. I do all the research and then they basically vote with me. But one thing that was tricky about this election that I was really focused on was the judicial candidates, which was a yes, no. And just one thing that I would like to share that I learned in the process, which was that it's a yes, no vote. If we voted no, then then whoever became governor would be able to vote, would it be able to appoint the new judges, right? So if Dahl would have won, we would have had new judges that would probably be Republican and probably be less progressive. And I did research through Voters Edge just to find out some background on some of the judges. So all of those judges, they were representing California Supreme Court and California Appellate Court judges. And they were either put into office by Brown or Newsom. So they were both Democratic governors who put them into office. So that was like every time I prepare for elections, I learn something new. And I know that judges, it's a hard one to try and figure out like what to do for that. So I hope that helps y'all.
Appreciate you. Thanks so much. Moving into the next question for anyone who voted, did y'all use IJ Action's voter guide? If so, was it helpful? Which races? Any feedback that y'all can share would be great. I know I used it. Anybody, any stories about using the voter guide? Andy, go ahead.
So I didn't do my homework, so the voting guide helped me because I was doing everything at the last minute because I received it through the mail and I didn't know if I could fill it out and send it through the mail or I had to drop it off in person. So I ended up dropping it off in person because I waited until the last moment. But the guy helped me so much. I just need to start doing my job and do the local part, because it helped with the general part, but the local ones, I had to do the research right away and I didn't really get into it that much. But it also helped me seeing what we did as a group with the research. So that helped also too.
Hell yeah, appreciate that. Ismael?
Oh, thanks. Hi, pleasure to be here. Yeah, I found it very helpful and useful, especially when it came to some of the props. I can't forgive me. I don't remember all of the prompts by heart, but like the one where Gavin Newsom, like recently towards the very end, really close to the election, started making a commercial, like saying to vote no against it, and then you kind of all. I think it was Prop 30 though.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
was saying like, oh, and you kind of explain how it's a tax on like the ultra wealthy would be the ones impacted. It's like, well, why do I care? They already got millions of dollars. Like, shouldn't they contribute more? Like, it's not taxing me. Like, I think that's beneficial. Hold on, sweetie. Oh, yeah. Sorry, my daughter
No
jumped on
problem.
the Zoom. She's Zoom bombing me. So I found that to be very beneficial. And then also like the smoking one, it might have been really helpful to get a little bit more like a description on why. I think that was a neutral stance. Like more of why like it was a neutral stance and just saying, because it seemed like kind of brief on some of the like the descriptions. So then I was like, oh, okay, I don't know. Like, how do I feel about that? Because I don't really want people having access to flavored vapes or anything. But I think that one was neutral. But maybe a little bit more explanation on some of those, that especially if they're neutral, like on why IJA is neutral on those things, would be beneficial, especially for me, because it's like, well, I don't care for having flavored vapes, but maybe there's a specific stance why IJA is neutral on that would benefit or help persuade me in going that way, because I consider you all like the experts in that. So then I would have been able to like vote more, because I tried to vote along. Well, I did, because it's the same ideology. So along that. So then when it came to that, it would have been like very beneficial for me to also just to alleviate any like maybe some guilt for voting one way or the another, specifically on that like proposition. Because and again, I'm harping on it, so I'm sorry, but it's like vote like
No.
for smoking. So that would have really helped me.
Definitely appreciate that feedback. Thank you so much. So to be clear on that proposition, IJ Action actually voted no consensus. So, as a consensus-based organization, if we have, one or more members opposing, then we don't adopt it. And that was the case with that particular proposition. So definitely want to make that clear, and good feedback for us to provide maybe a little bit more of a background around what no consensus means. So that confusion is hopefully mitigated in the future. But there was one particular proposition that we were neutral on. That was Prop 26. That had to do with online gambling on tribal lands. But appreciate you for that feedback.
Yeah, and even for because it was not a consensus, maybe stating why it wasn't would be beneficial for why the nays were presented, would help in that decision-making process. Sorry.
Great feedback. Yeah, thank you so much.
If I could say something else about that, I would say like that's also like another reason to like encourage people to become members and to come to our endorsement meetings and things like that. So anybody who was a member in good standing with IJ Action had the ability to come to the interviews. And I know like some people did. I know Ismail, like you were at some of them. And then we had the endorsement meetings where we voted on the candidates that we were going to endorse. And then we had another endorsement meeting where we talked about the ballot propositions in particular. So I'm just going to take this as an opportunity for a shameless plug for like, become a member, because you get a vote on the positions that we take on different ballot propositions. So yes, as Shervin said, for Prop 31, we couldn't get the threshold, like the majority vote, yes, no, or because we give people the option to say yes, we're going to support it, or we're going to vote no, or we're going to go neutral. We didn't get 50% for any of the options, so it was no consensus. But yeah, thanks Jay for putting the link in there. But yeah, I'm gonna take the opportunity for a shameless plug. Please become a member, and if you already are, continue to participate in the endorsement meetings that we will have in the future.
And bring a friend.
And last but not least, Vanessa.
All right. So yes, I'm sorry for the background noise. It's bath time, but I just kind of wanted to just touch base on the whole what Taina was just saying. when I started doing the just started voting this time, my second real time, I call it my second actual time since I've been involved with, IJ and IJ Action, but just the knowledge and all the helpful information helped me understand why I'm voting the way I am. And those endorsement meetings, they were so powerful because I myself am a very busy individual, but I like to stay in tune with community stuff. So then getting that information from those meetings helped me so much. I cannot say how much. And then of course the voter guide. The voter guide was so informational. It helped me. Just like someone else was saying how they were doing things at the last minute. I'm guilty of that as well. So I was like, oh, let me see. Oh, now I got to vote for the lesser of the two evils and, all those other things. But the experience and just having that support with helpful information makes voting a lot more less stressful. So I just have to kind of say thank you guys for doing all the hard work, bringing all that information to the forefront, allowing those who are not as educated and knowledgeable of all the, the ballots and the policies and all these things to allow it so accessible, right, and understandable. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. And yeah, it's a huge experience for me.
Appreciate your kind words. Thank you, Vanessa. All right, and getting into the last question before we jump in, how do you all see voting being an act of abolition? How do you see it falling under the framework of achieving abolition? So we got the fireplace in the background. I don't know if y'all can hear it, but yeah, Vanessa, please. Was that your hand up from last time still?
Yeah, I think it's stuff from last time.
Yes, I'm sorry. I have to put it down.
It's okay. Yeah, so as an act of abolition, as an act of abolition, I see abolition as community taking care of community. So in my opinion, anytime we're trying to help pass legislation and policies and put people in place who have community in mind and wants to restore community as well as allow community to be able to be self-sustainable, I think that that's abolition. So to me, I see that as the reason why voting is a part of abolition.
Right on. Andy, how about you?
It's the only way we're gonna get things passed that will not hurt other people and that will not keep creating the monster that we fighting into a different name or putting it in a different point of view of seeing it. And it's almost like some of my friends tell me it's almost like they even question what good is my vote if I'm voting for the side that they don't agree with. And I'm like, what good is your vote? And if you grew up in the same places that I did and went through the same things that I did, I don't know how you could be that confused. So it's definitely part of the abolitionist movement to vote.
Appreciate you. Last but not least, Crispy.
Yeah, these are the future people that we will be working with to sponsor our legislative bills. That's the way I think of it. Like, these are people, we are choosing our future partners, to help end mass incarceration. Also, when we're voting for judges, these could be the people who are seeing in courts. And we want to make sure that they are good people who make good decisions and aren't, kind of harm anybody else. So it's all good. And it's also one of the, voting is one of the most common forms of civic engagement that general people do. So, it's so important for people to be engaged that way, but it's also another way for people to be engaged at another level. Like, that's usually the entry point. And, hopefully we can get people not only to be voting, but also to be running as progressive people to change the system from the inside out.
Sure. Thank you. And Sophia.
Crispy just took the words, said them better than I could have. I just know for me, I stayed away from kind of politics because it felt so massive. And I felt like the people who were going to be in power were just going to find ways to stay in power. And I felt really defeated by it until I got involved with Initiate Justice and Initiate Justice Action. And it really helped me locate my own vote let alone our like kind of collective vote of what we're building here. And like, I just realized, you know, it's like, if I just decide not to vote, then there's nothing might change when we're making when we have these people being put in power where things are just getting so much more polarized these days. So like Crispy said, like, not just the ability to mobilize our vote of who we get in power, but like mobilize our people to begin to do those things is like, you know, the ways that we can really begin to dismantle business as usual to make room for, I think, what we want to build.
We build power, absolutely. Hell yeah. All right, Sean, well, let's get right into it then. That was a great little primer for our discussion. So as y'all know, this was the very first time that IJ Action had a formal endorsement process and made endorsements. And, you know, for the first time out of the gate, 6 out of 8 of our endorsed candidates are going to be elected officials. So that's incredible. That is incredible outcome for the first go around. You know, 8 candidates in total, 5 of whom are running for state assembly, 2 candidates for the Senate, and 1 candidate for the State Board of Equalization. But again, like, you know, getting 6 of them across the finish line is a major feat. And hopefully we can continue building that power, getting system impacted folks to be running for those seats, getting them into office and fucking shit up, man. Excuse my language. But getting into the state assembly endorsed candidates. So on the top, you'll see the folks who won their races, all 4 of whom were already incumbents. You know, incumbents definitely have the advantage of being reelected. They usually have the party support behind them. They got the fundraising advantage. But thankfully, we got some, you know, some great progressive abolitionist incumbents, all of whom won their reelections. Mia Bonta up in the Bay, Alex Lee as well in same area, Ash Kara, and then from here in SoCal, Isaac Bryan. All of them won with more than 60% of the vote, so landslide victories, which is awesome. But unfortunately, a fantastic candidate down here in SoCal was her second run, Fatima Iqbal Zubair, great IJ Action endorsed candidate. She also spoke at our ballot party and fundraiser here in LA a couple of weeks ago, for those of you who were able to attend that. Unfortunately, she was not able to beat incumbent Mike Gibson. You know, it's a tragic result, but we definitely feel for Fatima and wish her all the best and know she's going to continue carrying the work forward, continue organizing for justice and abolition. So the work definitely continues in 8065. But, you know, 4 out of 5 of our assembly candidates are going to be incumbents. So that's good news. And then amazing news here, both of our Senate candidates, both of whom are first-time candidates, running for open seats. And I mean, they were, especially Caroline, I don't know how many of y'all are down here in LA, but she was literally taking on the machine. You know, you had Big Daddy Bob Hertzberg, who was termed out, you know, former Senate Majority Leader, had all the money in the world, all the labor groups behind them, the party behind him, and he was running for Board of Supervisor, and he was trying to get his son to fill his Senate seat. So that was the machine that Caroline was up against. And you know, she just ran a great campaign, great field program. You know, one of our top endorsed candidates, and you know, she won. I don't think Daniel has formally conceded, but as you can see here from the updates of the vote by mail ballots from this morning, you know, Caroline's already at 56%. So she's already 13 points up. It's been trending her way for some time, so fingers crossed she continues building on that lead, and it's pretty much guaranteed at this point. So same thing with Lola Smallwood Cuevas, also a first-time candidate, running for the seat vacated by Sidney Comliger, who made a run for U.S. Congress. Her district includes Culver City, downtown, and other areas, and she also, you know, won in the landslide, close to 60% of the votes. So great results. Lola also spoke at our ballot party last week, so it was great to hear from her in person. And I should say too that with Caroline, her district is the East San Fernando Valley going over into the West. So both Los Angeles-based districts, but just incredible victories here for the Senate. Moving forward into Board of Equalization, unfortunately, David Dotson was not able to win his race for District 4 Board of Equalization. BOE is kind of in charge of a lot of state tax policy and things like that. Not exactly a policy-oriented position, but one of our endorsed candidates, someone who expressed a commitment to using that role to continue building the movement for abolition forward. Unfortunately, he was not successful, but we wish him all the best in his future endeavors. So that's the recap about our endorsed candidates. Getting into the propositions, first a recap of which ones we voted to support, opposed, no consensus, and neutral. So the ones at the top, Prop 1, which would codify reproductive rights, which is incredibly important as we see those rights continue to be dismantled in so many states across the country. That one passed by a landslide. Same thing with Prop 28, funding for school arts programs, Prop 29, dialysis clinics, Prop 30 around clean cars and the Clean Air Act to reduce emissions and help incentivize use of EV vehicles. And then finally, the LA County Measure A, which would authorize the LA County Board of Supervisors to remove a corrupt sheriff with a 4/5 vote. And I know we have some folks from the Measure A coalition here on our call, including MJ and others. But these were the propositions that IJ Action staff and board voted to support. There was one proposition that we voted to oppose, and that was Prop 27, which was gambling outside tribal lands, which was bankrolled by DraftKings and other out-of-state companies. As we already talked about, we voted no consensus on Prop 31, which was a referendum on a 2020 law that banned the sale of flavored tobacco here in California. And then last but not least, we remained neutral on Prop 26, which had to do with authorizing certain types of gambling on tribal lands. Of course, 26 and 27 are probably the most confusing of the propositions. I mean, there was just so much spending for and against for both propositions, but in the end, we're kind of talking about it here as a team. It seems like Californians, we went into this election with the propositions, knowing which ones we wanted to pass and which ones we're not messing around with, because pretty much all of them were landslide. None of them were close one way or the other. And getting specifically into that, Prop 1, that was the reproductive rights one, Prop 28 around arts funding in schools, and Measure A, they passed with flying colors. And being an Angelino down here, seeing Measure A pass with over 70% of the vote, that is incredible. That is incredible. So hats off to the Measure A coalition for all of your work. Let's continue building that movement forward. We know it doesn't stop with just allowing the Board of Supervisors to remove the sheriff. It stops at actually dismantling the system. But great progress here. Prop 26 and 27, the two gambling ones, Prop 29 around dialysis clinics, and then Prop 30, which was the Clean Air one that was opposed by Gavin Newsom, opposed by the Democratic Party. All of those failed. Again, none of them were close. And Californians also voted in favor of upholding the flavored tobacco ban. So that one also passed, which is another way of saying the referendum failed. So the flavored tobacco ban remains in effect. Any questions so far? Crispy.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not from LA, so I'm not really sure what Measure A is. Could you give a quick overview of what that is?
Yeah, so where do you start with the LA Sheriff's Department? All Sheriff's Department need to be dismantled, but LASD has a special spot in hell for being incredibly corrupt, and especially under the fake progressive Alex Villanueva, who ran on a reform agenda in 2018. I mean, we've just seen deputy gangs proliferate under his leadership. It's just been scandal after scandal after scandal. And so there's been a huge movement to place a check on the sheriff. And there was a coalition put together, the Check the Sheriff Coalition, that folks were a part of, including ACLU, National Lawyers Guild, and many others. And basically it authorizes the LA County Board of Supervisors under a 4/5 vote to remove the sheriff for incompetence, corruption, kind of a list of different transgressions that would qualify for removal. So it's a pretty powerful change, and especially since I know we don't talk about this race, but there was a very important Board of Supervisors race here in LA County as well that Daddy Hertzberg was running for and lost. And the candidate who won, Lindsay Horvath, has expressed support for Measure A, as far as I know. MJ, please correct me if I'm wrong about that. But so that's good news. And yes, that's what Measure A is. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to say I got a comment. First of all, I'd like to invite everyone on the call to feel free to show your support in the chat. You know, we always try to keep our chats lit, but also I'd like to just say this is one of the most satisfying races in a long time, where you just see so much evil get defeated, you know, at least as far as California is concerned. And again, these aren't the answers to the problems, but they're steps in the right direction. Right. You see the tobacco company take a hit. You see the one of the most problematic sheriffs in U.S. history just get slapped in the face 2 times. And then you see you know, baby Hertzberg go down, daddy Hertzberg go down. It's a lot of good coming from this election. So I just want to, you know, throw that out there for folks who aren't really as involved in politics like we are and understand the implications. And then not only that, but we see quantified here, like 5 open abolitionist platform running progressives like win their races by like a big amount. So it's great to see this stuff. So I just want to, you know, kind of just put that into perspective for folks.
Absolutely. And one more, billionaire Rick Caruso lighting 100 million of his own money on fire. God damn. That is satisfying to see.
I forgot about that one too. It's so many, so many.
No, it's a trip. I mean, you know, midterms can be pretty tough. You know, turnout's always lower than presidential years. You know, we got some major wins. So a lot to be proud of. The movement work continues. We're not done. But as Jay said, we've made a lot of progress in this election. So definitely taking that time to reflect, celebrate those wins, and keep building that power to move forward. All right, so getting into where we go from here. So of course, you know, things are still in flux. There are still some races that have yet to be called. And you know, once the new session commences in January, we're going to be seeing new committee membership. We're going to be seeing changes on leadership on committees. And so I want to provide that caveat for folks that, you know, don't take everything you see here at face value. These things may very well change, but to kind of start us off, you know, there are 3 committees in each chamber of the legislature that are of outsized importance for us as abolitionists working on abolitionist policy. That's a Public Safety Committee. It's called the same thing in both the Assembly and the Senate. The Appropriations Committee, basically the folks who have the power of the purse, the power of funding. And then last but not least, the Elections and Constitutional Amendments Committee. So right now, you can see here who the chairs for each of those committees are. Again, this may very well change, but as you can see here, you know, Stephen Bradford from SD 35, Committee Chair for Public Safety in the Senate, Anthony Portantino on Appropriations, and Stephen Glazer as the Chair of the Elections Committee. Over in the Assembly, you know, we got our very own Isaac Bryan chairing the Elections Committee. We got Chris Holden, who's Chair of Appropriations, and Reginald Joyne Sawyer, who's Chair of the Public Safety Committee. But, you know, one thing I want to really stress about this. So, for example, you know, we're talking about Big Daddy Hertzberg. Big Daddy Hertzberg was on the Senate Elections Committee. So now that he's off, and you know, we got Caroline Menjivar taking over that seat, you know, one thing we're going to be doing to kind of build that power is making sure we're getting our endorsed candidates on the committees we need them to be on to, move our policies forward. So that's going to be kind of where we go from here. Once the dust settles, once the committee assignments are finalized, we can do some really impactful, comprehensive asset mapping, where we're basically, going through and saying, all right, who are our potential allies? Who's our opposition? And then, how do we come to that conclusion? Well, like, are they allies based on, like, did they refuse law enforcement money? Have they talked about abolition in the past? Have they co-sponsored our bills in the past? Are they committed to co-sponsoring them once they're elected? So kind of using that to map out, who can we build power with, who can we work with, and then who do we need to look out for, and be able to kind of game plan and navigate around. Either they may be a committee chair or a ranking member or a member of the committee who's not on our side that we're going to have to find a way of navigating towards. So that's what we're going to be doing moving forward. And so, of course, like I said, with folks like Caroline and Lola, trying to really encourage them to get on the important committees we need them to be on, and seeing what that looks like. But then one thing I did want to share is that we already do have a newly confirmed Assembly Speaker, Robert Rivas, from 8029. He will be sworn in as Speaker on June 30th of next year. So that means that Anthony Rendon, the current Assembly Speaker, will continue in that role between January and June, and then come the end of June, Rivas will take the mantle and carry us through the end of session, which is the end of August, and then moving into next session after that. So we're basically going to have two Assembly Speakers for this coming session. The first 6 months again being Rendon, the last 2 months being Robert Rivas. And then over in the Senate, no major changes in leadership yet. It's still Mike McGuire who's Majority Leader, but again, important caveat there, that may change. So please take all this with a grain of salt, but want you all to kind of see the lay of the land as it currently stands. And again, all the asset mapping we're going to be doing, all the analysis we're going to be doing, is really to be able to build that power to figure out, all right, how do we get our two main priorities: restoring voting rights for all currently incarcerated Californians and repealing the draconian 3 strikes law through ballot measure, getting both of those passed in 2023. Jay, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I just want to first take a second to shout out Mike McGuire for his wonderful legacy of voting to support justice reform measures in California. And just briefly wanted to point, when the chairs of these committees and having the Majority Leader in support of your bills, is that pretty good for policy or no?
That's incredibly important. Yeah, because I mean, the chairs are the ones who set the schedule for bills to be voted on in committee. They have the power of tabling bills in committee. They have the power of, pushing forward certain amendments, tabling certain amendments. So absolutely, having committee chairs be allies is one of the most impactful ways of building power and getting our abolitionist policies across the finish line. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Jay. As I shared, Isaac Bryan, one of our champions, he chairs the elections committee. It's a great asset to have. But yeah, absolutely. The more we can get in the ear of committee chairs and make sure they understand the work we're doing, why it's important, making sure they're meeting and hearing directly from system impacted folks about their priorities, especially if they're constituents of theirs. It's incredibly important for building that consensus around these important bills. Any other questions? That was really it, y'all. Not too much else. Like I said, things are still in flux. Committee assignments are still TBD. New chairs are still TBD. And we'll be sure to give you all the full breakdown once that process finalizes, and make sure y'all are involved moving forward to help advocate to get these bills across the finish line.
And folks, definitely still, think of questions if you have any. Thank you, Shervin. I know that was a lot. of information, but super helpful for us to reflect on not only, IJ Action's role in this election, but just to help us, like understand a little bit more of like the landscape for the legislation we want to work on next year. But I think that I also want to like encourage folks or like remind folks that the work doesn't end, after the election, right? Like now we need to actually like hold these people accountable. So we're going to be talking to people who we endorse to be authors for legislation that we want to work on next year around restoring voting rights, potentially around, like repealing 3 strikes or things like that. Like we want to make sure that we have as much like legislative like allies and support for all of the advocacy work that we're trying to do. But that's for us, for IJ Action, for, legislation that we're co-sponsoring. For you all, of course, we'll also ask you to support legislation that we're co-sponsoring. But if there are any issues that are important to you that have to do with the prison system or that don't, that have to do with education, healthcare, and anything that that falls under the umbrella of like what the state controls, make sure that you're reaching out to your state legislator. Like pick up the phone at any point and be like, hi, my name is so and so, I'm a constituent of your district. I want you to vote yes on this bill, or I want you to vote no on this bill, or I want to know like what your stance is on providing universal health care or on, fully funding our education systems. So just want to like remind everybody that yes, our vote is powerful. But we also, as constituents, like have to remember that these people were voted to represent us. So make sure that we're doing the work to ensure that they are representing us in the way that they're supposed to be.
You have something to say, Emiliano?
Yeah, totally. Thank you, Taina, for that. And, I also, in that same vein, I just also want to say, I want to thank folks for coming out to the fundraiser, but also the fundraiser is also a great place to meet, these people, like the candidates that are running for re-election, get to know who they are. Like, for example, Lola Smallwood Cuevas, I'm in her district, and I made sure that I introduced myself as a constituent to her, so she knows who I am. So when I do call her office, she'll know, hey, this person lives in my district, and these are the issues that he cares about. There isn't a barrier between us and them because they are senators or assembly people or elected officials. We should, like, I used to feel that way, and I've taken that out of my mind, and these people are put there, just like Taina said, because we put them there. And we can also voice our opinion when we don't agree with something, when we want them to vote a certain way, or when we don't want them to vote for a certain thing. So yeah, so get involved. We'll be having more events, and just see who's on the guest list and pop in. But I do want to thank everybody for a successful fundraiser. It was amazing. I had a great time. Our spaces fly. I hope you guys love the elevator music, because it's not like anywhere else, because they're bumping in that elevator. Thank you. I'll pass it to Jay so he can close us out.
Well, I see Andy has his hand up.
To get involved, because even though if a lot of things are happening out in LA, not in your district, you can learn when you're looking for information in your district. And I just want to share that I got to meet Assemblywoman Weber, and it was amazing to meet her in person, to see that we have somebody that is on our side in my area, because every time I do research, I just see people that are getting supported by cops and want to bring more cops in the area that I live. I was around the chief of police because my church was helping with something, and her comment was, I'm hiring so many cops that I don't even know their name no more. So it's stuff like that that discourage you, but meeting people that are on our side and just getting involved with everything that happens also teach you what you're looking for and what questions to ask.
Yeah, well said, Andy. Thank you, man.
Yes, everybody. So thank you, Emiliano, for bringing up the amazing ballot party we had in the Fly office space that we were able to secure. And I just wanted to take the time to drop the link in the chat if you didn't make it to the fundraiser and you would like to contribute, if you are able to, or know someone who's in the position who don't mind. that's the link. If not, no problem, no pressure. And also just wanted to take the time to thank Shervin. I told one of our colleagues who was on the call early that I had the ringer in the bullpen warming up that 105-mile-an-hour fastball, and y'all got to witness the amazing, skills of Shervin. And I really appreciate it because you bring so much to the table as far as just your knowledge and depth of political experience. So thank you for that, for putting all that together and just bringing, everything that we experienced, full circle. Really appreciate it. And even folks are talking about your presentation, like your presentation was great. So really appreciate that. And thank you to just the members for coming out and supporting this year with the endorsements, also coming through supporting with the voter guide, coming through and, being a part of these calls. Thank you for everything, helping us to be able to launch and get in that position. It's really appreciated, and membership will take this forward. And so with that, I just want to just take this opportunity to say, this is the second to last meeting of the year. We have one more meeting this year, and that meeting is going to be on December 13th. So I appreciate if folks would take the time now to RSVP, so that way you make sure that you're available at the December meeting. And with that said, I would like to, put my ask in, as a community organizer, there's always going to be a call to action. And I would like everybody to bring a friend, bring a friend. If you have folks in your daily life who you think could benefit from what we're doing here, or people who are impacted by incarceration, or folks who are just unhappy, anyone, it don't have to be necessarily impacted, don't necessarily have to be formerly incarcerated, anybody, just folks who are allies, whoever. Please invite them into the space, share the link with them. Also, if you're on this call for the first time, you haven't filled out your membership application, we'll be dropping that link in the chat. I ask that folks please fill out the membership application, but just please, that's the call to action for next month, is to bring a friend, share this link with other people in your network, other people that folks who you just come across that, you see with a need, or who may be someone that could benefit from this work that we're doing here. And also just wanted to point out again, what we spoke about earlier. I kind of had to rush through it because we did have such a wonderful presentation, is that right now we're strategizing and we're coming up with ways that in 2023, we'll be able to bring a more robust membership and organizing committee forward. And we're going to be diving into things such as training. So it might look like political organizing, it may look like running a campaign, it may look like how is it to draw up your own piece of legislation. It's going to look like a lot of different things. It's going to get real technical, it's going to get real interesting. So we ask that folks to stay involved, continue to be in this fight, and just choose membership. And we really appreciate everyone. We want y'all to know that from the bottom of our heart. And we want to continue to grow what we've done here. We want to continue to multiply this work. And so with that, again, membership, we thank you all. Staff, board, we thank you all. And that's it for tonight. We're going to conclude the meeting, but thank you to everyone for coming out. Feel free to unmute, say your goodbyes. Also, put whatever you need to put in the chat, but thank you all. Bring a friend next month. It's required. Let's go, y'all. We could do it.
Thank you all so much. Have a great night.
Good night, y'all.
Great
Take care.
meeting. Thank
Good
you.
week.
Thank you. Good night.